Hello, dads. Hope you're doing really wonderfully well out there again today. What a day! Absolutely gorgeous outside. Hope you're doing well. In this video, I want to talk a little bit about what it looks like or how can you step more fully into your role as a father and the importance then of what is motivating you. So I want to just jump in straight away and I want to introduce you to a concept by Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins talks about this in his book Awaken the Giant Within. And it's the idea of motivation and how we're driven either to move towards pleasure or to move away from pain. Move towards pleasure or move away from pain. So let me unpack that a little bit here. So imagine that you're living in Dublin and you've been there for a while, but you are desperate to leave Dublin to escape because there's things going on there that you're just not happy about anymore. Maybe it's something to do with your home. Maybe you're in a community that you don't like, but you're desperate to move and you're just ready to get out of that place because the pain you're experiencing in that moment is just overwhelming. You just cannot stand to be there anymore. So you're motivated to move away, to get away, to leave, to find something new, to find something better. But here's the thing, if you're only focused on avoiding that pain, you could literally end up anywhere. You could end up 5 minutes up the road, the next county, and it doesn't really matter where you are because you'll move somewhere, and once you're there and you're not experiencing that pain anymore, you think you'll be happy. But I want you to think about it for a moment. You're leaving one place because it's unbearable, because you want to get away, you've had enough. But if you don't have a clear vision of what it is you want, where you want to go, what life you ultimately want to live, you could just end up moving to another place that is just as painful and experiencing the same things over and over and over again. So the problem really is that you're focused more on avoiding the pain of the past and running away from it. So instead, you've got the opposite of that, which is moving towards pleasure. Instead of focusing on the pain, you shift your focus on what God has for you. You look at what God is saying into your situation. You begin to think about things that you would love to have, the types of people you would love to be around, the type of house that you would feel comfortable in. You think about who you want to become. You start thinking about what's important for you and the values that you have. And you begin to build a clear vision of what it is that you want. And then the direction that you need to move becomes clear. You're not running away from something. You're moving towards something. You're moving towards a new life that is more aligned with you and your values and what's important to you, your sense of purpose, your fulfillment, and ultimately, moving towards what God has for you. So it's a subtle shift, and the shift is from pain towards pleasure, moving towards the things that are more for you and more aligned for you. So it's really about vision, and vision is where the power lies. It's, when you think about when you're living from avoidance of pain, you're really being reactive to life. You're being reactive to your emotional life and what's happening, what's being triggered within you. But when you're moving towards vision, you're being proactive. You're asking questions, and you are thinking through and praying through what's important before you even go. And as I'm describing that, start thinking about it in your own life. What motivates you in terms of your fathering and for being a dad? Are you moving towards a vision of healthy fatherhood, or are you trying to avoid the pain that you perhaps experienced as you were growing up and your experience of your own father? And that's what it was like for me, if I'm being totally honest. In my own journey, I for a long time was adamant that I was not going to be anything like my father was. In fact, I said that on many, many occasions. I will not be like what my father was. My motivation in terms of being a husband and being a father was driven by the pain I experienced as a young person, as a child, growing up, and I was determined that that was never going to happen in my life. I'm not going to be like him. In fact, I'm going to be the complete opposite of him, and that's what I did. I became the complete opposite of him. My father was a violent man. He was an angry man. He was very unpredictable. Um, I saw things that I shouldn't have seen when I was that young, and I had very traumatic experiences when I was young. So I unconsciously just decided I'm going to be the opposite of that. So I worked hard to be liked. I was a people pleaser. I was a yes person. I was the good guy. And that was all just in an attempt to make up for the past and not wanting to be that. So I became something else. And I learned, that, it was easy for me just not to rock the boat, not to share my opinions. And even now, I still need to work through sharing my voice and sharing my opinions and sharing my convictions, and it can take a lot for me to speak and to open up about what's important for me. But the truth really is, just focusing on the pain of the past, it wasn't enough for me, because when I became a father, um, and I was in that mode of being everything to everybody and being the yes man and just people pleasing and wanting to do everything that my father didn't do. I was so disconnected from who I really was. And the reality was, I was still hurting, I was still in pain, I was still feeling lost, I still didn't have a clear idea of what fatherhood was. I was just making it up as I go along, as all of us tend to do. And as I was making it up, I had no clear vision, no purpose, no idea, to be honest with you. I was doing everything that I thought a father should do. I was showing up, I was trying my best, I was giving everything I had, but I was so overwhelmed. I was so overwhelmed because I wasn't being me. I wasn't being the real Vinty. I had a mask on. Had a facade on that I had created to avoid all of that pain of the past. And at some point, I hit a brick wall, and I couldn't do it anymore. Work was overwhelming and stressful because I was wearing a mask in there. Family life was overwhelming and stressful because I was wearing a mask in there. And I had no consistent vision of what this thing called being a dad was. I was operating from that place of pain. And it wasn't until I had that breakdown and some time off and some time to reflect and ask the difficult questions. And I remember sitting in the park and just conversing with God, and just asking him, like, who am I, and what is this all about? Because I didn't want to continue on operating the way I was operating, because it was damaging for everybody. But I got the support and I got the help, and I went and I did some counselling, and I began asking myself those questions, what does it mean to be a dad? What is this role? What kind of father do I actually want to be? Not just the opposite of my own dad, but like who am I called to be? What do I want to be known for? How do I want my kids to experience me? And that's when I began to understand that I needed to shift my focus. I needed to shift my perspective, not from what I didn't want to be, but what I wanted to create and who God wanted me to be in all of this. And I began moving towards that person, that father that I wanted to be. And that led me in a direction of beginning to understand my triggers as best as I could at the time, and go on a bit of a healing journey, and having some really difficult, challenging conversations with my wife about how I was showing up as a father. But it was one of the most powerful times of my life, being that honest and creating a vision for who I wanted to be, and what God had for me was so incredibly powerful and so freeing when I began moving towards what it is that God wanted from me, and what it is that I wanted to create in the family. And we are creative beings, you know. God is a creative being, and we have that part within us, that part just desires to create. And as I said, yes, the more I moved into the direction of creating from a place of vision, I'm not saying it was all easy, but it was a lot more freeing, and it gave me the space to be able to understand myself a lot more, and why I am the way that I am, and begin to change the things that needed changed. So today I ask you the same question: what kind of father do you want to be? How do you want to show up for your kids? How do you want your kids to feel when they're around you? What do your kids want to say? What do you want your kids to say about you? When they're adults, when they look back on their life, and it's really important that we ask these big questions and we start grappling with these big questions. And if you are in a place where you can see that you don't have a clear vision, and perhaps you are being motivated in your fatherhood from pain, then that's okay, because pain is a powerful motivator. Pain can motivate you into action. But there's a lot more freedom when you're operating from this place of vision. So I do encourage you to sit and to ask those key questions. So the key to becoming the father that you're meant to be and you're created to be, it isn't in escaping the past. It's about choosing to move every single day towards your purpose, towards the vision, and towards the role that God's given to you. It's about deciding who you want to be, who God's called you to be, and how you want to lead your kids ultimately. And as fathers, we have this unique opportunity just to shape the future, to guide our children with intention, and to live out of a place of wanting to leave a legacy that's built on love and connection and strength and purpose, not on repeating the same patterns of pain of the past. So that requires us to shift our focus from being in this reactionary mode all the time, reacting to our own past, and instead shifting it towards a place of responding from a place of vision. And that's where the change begins to happen within you, but then also within your families. So if you found that helpful today, please let me know in the comments, and perhaps answer the question, what's your vision for being a father? Who do you want to be for your kids? And if you know somebody out there, a dad out there, who you think this would be helpful for, then please tag them in it or share it with them. Because we want to support as many fathers as we can. Nobody's given a roadmap for fatherhood. I'm not sitting here saying that I have all the answers and I get everything right, because I feel time and time again. And the reason I have an interest in this is because I needed to show up more powerfully. I needed to show up more intentionally. I needed to heal from my wounds and from my past, and I am still on that journey. So please never think that the stuff that I'm sharing is coming from a place of thinking I've got it all figured out, because I don't. I'm just a father who loves God, who loves his kids dearly, and who wants to do the best job, because I realise the importance of having a father engaged, because I didn't have one myself. So dads, listen, you matter, your kids matter, your role matters. And I'll see you in the next video. And remember, you've got what it takes.